Welcome to Projects for All. My name is Mike, and today we have two very popular table saws. We have the DELTA 36725T2 and the DeWALT 7491RS. They both have videos on my channel. If you want to look at both or either of them in great depth, you can go to those videos. I'll put links at the end of this one for both of them. We're going to look at all the major components. They're very different, but they have essentially the same capability. And I get asked the question all the time, which one of these should I buy? Which seems a little ridiculous because they're so different. But as you'll see, anything you can do with this 200-pound monster, you could essentially do with this 90-pound portable saw. Let's get in here, let's check them out, and let's see which one would be the best saw for you. Let's start at the top. DeWALT 26 1/4 by about 21 7/8. The DELTA is about 40 1/8, about 27 on the wing. Table height on the DELTA, just a hair under 37 inches. On the DeWALT, 36 1/2. The all-in measurements on the DELTA make it pretty big. Just a hair under 62 1/2 inches long. From the back rail to the front is about 31 3/8. So not a small table saw and not collapsible in any way, shape, or form. This is what you get, and this is the size you're stuck with. The DeWALT is tougher to measure. It's about 48 to 49 inches from that handle to that handle. The fence really doesn't make a difference. I mean, you could have it out here, or you could push it all the way in. It's not past the handle there with the rails. With the feet out, it's about 40 inches from here to here. So it's about as wide technically as the DELTA if you're gonna push it up against the wall and just leave it standing as you see here. We could just fold it up and make it a whole lot smaller. The blade controls on these two saws is very different also. This one has this plastic knob. It doesn't lock. So this is blade down, this is blade up, and you can hear there's like a detent, and it stops. And while there's no way to lock this solid, I have never seen it move while I've used it. So you have blade down, blade up. If you want to tilt your blade, you have your scale here, and you have this lever here. You loosen this lever and simply swing to tilt. And then wherever you're at, you have your pointer and you tighten that down and you have your blade tilted. There's nothing wrong with this design, but it's for sure simplified, and this is how most job site saws are. This is your height adjustment on the DELTA. Smooth as butter. You got a big metal wheel, plastic handle, plastic knob. There is no detent to stop this. I will tell you that this lock here, once you lock it, this will not move, but I almost never use this. And honestly, I've never seen this move while I'm using it, even though there's nothing to stop it from moving. It just doesn't move. For the DELTA tilt mechanism, you see it has the slot that it's gonna travel in, and there should be a scale here. Mine fell off a long time ago. You can see that in the original video. It actually fell off while I was filming. Here is your tilt mechanism for your blade. This is tilt to the left, and this also has a locking knob here. So you can lock that tilt mechanism down, and it is solid, it will not move. Job site saws with the swing mechanism have a pretty hard stop at 90 straight up and 45. This one, because it's a crank style, I don't trust it because it gets kind of like, as you're getting to the end, it gets kind of stiffer, and then it does stop. And actually it stopped at 90. I checked it, but I always use the Wixie gauge. If you own this saw or any saw like this, or probably any saw at all, this is, I think, around 30 bucks and well worth the investment. I put an affiliate link in the description for that. Let's talk about these fences. They are very, very different. The fence for the DELTA is 35 1/4 The usable part of this one here, the aluminum part on this, is just a touch under 22 inches. Massive difference. This one weighs almost nothing. It is featherweight because it has to be portable. The fence for this Delta is an absolute beast. It's a piece of smooth aluminum on either side with a piece of steel sandwiched in between. It attaches to the rail, which is, by the way, just a square piece of 2-inch by 2-inch tubing that this sits on. The aluminum is held in by these channels and these fairly large bolts inside here. And there's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3 on either side. Well made and made to last. This thing weighs a ton. The angle iron on the front side of this fence here is this 1/4 inch plate. Just a hair under a 1/4 inch. Lever, all steel. And that cam's right here. And it squeezes this 2x2 square steel stock on the front of this. This is 2 pieces. The seam is right here. So by contrast, the DeWALT fence, super lightweight, easy to move. It's on a rack and pinion, so there's gears and teeth under here, and you can turn this or just move it back and forth, and it's very easy to move. There's a lock under here to lock the fence down, and it is rock solid when it's locked down. It sits on 3 positions. It's sitting on the farthest position. You have this position here, which will allow you to pull it all the way to the blade. There's 8 inches between the blade and the fence right now. If I put it on this position, it would touch the blade. And then there's this position here for if you were going to cut on the left side. So there's locks. Flip out the lock, tilt this up, and it just hooks. It has a hook there on the end. Very easy to do one-handed. Very quick, 0 messing around. Unlike the Delta, which has a very heavy fence, comes in about 1 inch or 25.5 millimeters. The secondary fence is about 11 millimeters. I don't want to call it flimsy because it's fine, but if you're going to clamp something to this or you need to do that for some woodworking operation, this, I can squeeze it with my fingers. I can't really show it to you, but I can feel the give. This is just a piece of hollow aluminum, and it's not crazy strong. So it serves its purpose for ripping, but for attaching something to this fence, you know, I would be pretty leery about squeezing this hard with a clamp. So that's a consideration. The Delta, like this, gives you no channel, nothing, no way to attach something to it other than clamping, but the Delta, I wouldn't be worried about attaching something at all. It is strong as hell. This, not so much. You have your push stick attached to this in a very nice location. I'll show you the one on the Delta. This has a secondary fence that you can flip around. It's about 2 inches. So if you're going to cut something very thin, or if you need to, with the blade guard on here, run a push stick, and this is kind of in your way, then you can use this fence here. Unlike the Delta, sits flush with the table at the second position and allows you to use this as a support. So if you have this thing all the way out there, you can ride your material along this, which is really nice. And it's 2 inches and gives you enough space where I feel confident ripping on this. The Delta has a secondary fence also. It doesn't sit totally flat. It is small at about 1 inch or so. It can only be used on the left side of the blade. It does not give you any way to put it on this side for right side rip. And I get a lot of comments from people saying, hey, that's a support for your material. You put it on the wrong side. And hopefully this clears that up, because as you can see, there is no way to bolt this to this side, the left side, to support, and it only has one position. This is it. It sits on the table, not below. There is no way to get this to be a support. You have this stabilizing bar, we'll say, and if you're all the way out here, if you're at 30.5, that stabilizing bar will act as a support for your material, but only if you're all the way at the end at 30.5. Here at 30, no bueno. So, okay, if you're max, they give you something, but I would have really liked to seen a support for this rather than have this on this side. I don't know, it just seems really silly to me. But I would call it one of the weaker design elements on this saw, and there aren't that many. Push stick on the Delta is here. It locks in. You can see it's real positive. It just slots in. It's a basic plastic push stick. There's nothing wrong with it. It is in a convenient location, but probably not the best or most convenient. Once it locks in, I mean, it's on there. It ain't going anywhere. All right, so throat plate on the Delta. There is no locking latch for this. A little piece of spring steel in the front keeps it on. It is open in the back, which is kind of a nice feature. So if you have the blade all the way up and the blade guard on, you can pull this off to adjust your riving knife without removing your blade guard, which is a cool design. However, the weak link of that is this dips down here. So I get material stuck here sometimes, and I very rarely use this. Even though it's not a bad design per se, I wish there was a support. There's an adjusting screw here. There is not one here. It would benefit if it had one there. But is it the end of the world? No, not really. Locks in positively. The adjusting points are on the saw itself. Phillips head, which I love, you can adjust through the holes in the throat plate. The aftermarket throat plate from Etsy has the same holes. At full height, 3¼ inches. Max height at 45 degrees is about 2 3/8. Getting your blade on and off on the Delta is very simple. One wrench, press this button here, and it locks your arbor. It has a full-size arbor, 5/8, which will accept a full 13/16 dado stack. Check the Delta video if you want to see that installed. I do it on that video. I'm not going to waste your time doing it on this one. This lever here, flip this lever up. Riving knife is loose. Riving knife is not captive. It has 2 positions. There's a detent. It is also your kickback pawl and your blade guard attachment points. It's pretty standard stuff, really. Riving knife fits in, and then you just flip the lever back down, and it's locked. Installing the blade guard on these is very different. On the DeWALT, you pull your riving knife out, take your blade guard with exactly the same attachment, and just drop it right in. It has a detent to hold it out of the way. It also has dust collection, which is super cool. And if you don't want to use this, but you still want to use the dust collection, you can run cuts or get this out of the way by using these detents that pin it up here. On the Delta, the blade guard is nothing special. It's a blade guard, and it's metal, which is nice. It simply hooks on the back. It's just a standard blade guard, but it is metal. Hook it on the back, flip it down, and flip down your lever, and now it's locked. Full up on the DeWALT is 3¼ again. Exactly the same as the Delta, 45-degree tilt, 2¼ The throat plate has a locking latch because this saw will be moved around and flipped on its side essentially. It is open in the back, same as the Delta, so if you have the blade guard on it, you can get this off. Riving knife on this one comes right out. It has 1 position. When I pull this lever, this moves out, and the riving knife just drops right in. Locked. And there's that lever to release your riving knife. This is a 2-wrench operation. You get an open-ended for the back side behind the blade, and then obviously a closed end for here. This saw will take a full 13/16 dado stack, exactly the same as the Delta. Check out this saw's video and you'll see me install it in this. They do make dado throat plates for this saw. I'm sure you can find them on Etsy, and I'm sure DeWALT makes them too. My buddy has one, I just don't have it to show you. So they are available for this, same as the Delta. Full rip to the right on the DeWALT is 32.5 inches, which is just mind-bending for a portable saw. On the Delta, 30.5 full rip to the right, which is really good, but shockingly less than the portable DeWALT. Both saws feature a 3/4 inch, about 3/8 deep miter slot, which is standard. This is the miter gauge for the DeWALT. Same size miter slot on the Delta. This is the miter gauge for the Delta. Let's have a quick look at these because they're actually kind of different. Believe it or not, these two miter gauges come from very similarly priced saws. This one is mostly metal except for that knob. This one is an aluminum bar on ABS plastic. It is cheap as hell. This is complete garbage. This is the DeWALT. This is a $650 professional table saw. This one is all metal. It has machine surfaces here and here. Metal detents, adjustable, and a solid metal rod that's adjustable. So I assume, because this is a job saw and they're not expecting most people in the trades to do crosscut on a table saw. I never did when I was doing remodeling. I assume that's why this is we had to include one, so here is your junk. The client for this table saw maybe is your hobbyist woodworker, and they gave you something that's actually usable. You can attach with the holes an additional fence to it if you want. This is accurate. You can see it in my Delta video. I check it. It's about as accurate as you can want and about as good as you can imagine for an included piece. So here's your size of storage. About 27 inches by about 25 inches on the DeWALT, and we already went over the freakishly large dimensions of the Delta. So this is what you're going to have to store if you have this in your garage. This can go over here next to that pack out and basically disappear over there, and we could get cars in and out of here. This freaking thing is very large. It takes up space. Of course, you can park it up against the wall and it's going to stick out about 32 inches or so, but you know, this is about 80 to 90 pounds. This is over 200 pounds. This has to be portable. You put this in a car. I mean, two guys could throw this bad boy in a pickup truck, but I mean, I don't know if I'd want to be carrying this thing around with me places if I didn't have to. Deploying the legs on this to set it up is very simple. Got a couple latches there, and then you have these down here, and you just tilt these, and that's it. Tilting it up is no big deal. Just tilt it back on the leg, put your foot on it, tilt it back. I usually kick the legs out, and it's pretty solid. I mean, is it super, super solid? Once you kick the legs out, not tons of movement. I would call it totally acceptable. Both of these saws have a 2.5 inch dust port on the back of them. This is obviously the DeWALT, aluminum, nice and thick aluminum, professional. This will last a lifetime. On the Delta, 2.5 inches essentially, millimeters, but flimsy plastic, wiggles around. It's attached here with a screw. This has not broken, which is kind of a shocker because this is not made to last a lifetime, and I'm not real impressed with this. I have yet to break it, probably about 3 or 4 years, still kicking, but would have probably been smart for me to build some kind of bracket around here, maybe just a piece of wood with a hole in it, a board with a hole in it to support this better, which is something I've been meaning to do for about 3.5 years now. The DeWALT has some nice 8-inch wheels on it. The Delta comes with these little tiny casters. I didn't measure them, but it doesn't matter because you can barely see it. They're very tiny. You push the lever down and now it is free to move. The wiggling you see is the floor and not necessarily the saw. However, it is not the most stable thing. And if you have big seams in your floor, it's a pain in the butt. Usually I just lift it up and over the seams, but these little wheels here get caught also. And the thing weighs 200 pounds, so if you're not particularly strong, this could be a little bit of a beast to move around. Although I don't personally find it too bad. So let's do a quick noise comparison. About 30 decibels is just sitting here. The phone is about where you would be if you were using the saw. So with me talking, 70, 80 decibels, but about 25 in the old garage here. Again, about the same distance, and here's the Delta. Massive difference. And in all honesty, the noise level on this is about my voice when I'm talking. You're talking about a 5 to 10 decibel difference. This is about 5 to 10 decibels louder than me. So huge difference. I mean huge difference. And this one here is a pleasure to work with because of the noise level. The DeWALT is your typical very loud screamer of a job site saw, and when I use these job site saws in here, I use hearing protection because it is goofy loud in here. This, I don't use hearing protection. So which one to buy? It's not an easy question. They're almost the same price. They have almost the same capabilities. This one folds up, it's portable, you take it with you. This one, not really. So to me, that's the deciding factor. We don't park in this garage. This garage is just a shop. So having this here doesn't bother me at all. I can move it into the corner and it disappears. But if you need to park in your garage, this is not a bad way to go. Not at all. The DeWALT has 2 inches more rip capacity than the Delta. But for me, the Delta, its weight, the space that it gives you on the table is the deciding factor. Because if you're going to build sled, you can do it for either one. But this one gives you more space in front of the blade. It's just more pleasurable to work. Also the noise. The noise, 15 decibels doesn't seem like a lot until you're listening to it for hours. I don't wear hearing protection usually when I use this. The job site saws that I review for the channel, I always wear hearing protection because 100 decibels for any amount of time is not good for you. 85, I think, is on the fence. Maybe that's debatable. And probably I should wear hearing protection, but this is comfortable. We could have this volume conversation standing next to this while the blade's running. Really, it comes down to size. You guys tell me what you think. Post in the comments, hit subscribe, hit like. It really helps out the channel. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope I helped you out. See you in the next one.